Crazy Joe is a short film about a man who loses his family in a terrible car accident. It's basically the story of how stubborn love can be. His daughter, Lizzie, just basically won't go to the afterlife. She stays behind on Earth to look after her father. She doesn't want to leave him abandoned with nothing left in the world. So she stays, takes care of him, and essentially is, his guardian angel.
Joe has been through this accident where he lost Jennifer, his wife, and now Lizzie is all he's got left, and she's his entire world.
It's basically about a fella who loses his family. His name is Joe. He loses his family in a car wreck, and his daughter's spirit is still alive. Well, I guess she wouldn't be alive. The spirit's just still there. And basically Joe's the only person that sees her and kind of like motivates Joe to continue living his life.
I play Lizzie. I think that she's about 11 years old. She is a ghost. She died in a car crash with her mother, and she remains on Earth to be with her father, who's grieving the loss of his wife.
And he lives for Lizzie. That's his motivation too. That's what he lives every moment for Lizzie, wanting to see that she has everything she needs, that she's taken care of.
He knows the mother's passed on, but he doesn't know that I've passed on. I kind of remain on him as on Earth to keep him sane.
He knows he's got to be strong for Lizzie, and that's where I think she brings out strength that he himself didn't even know he had. To lose Lizzie too would be, I think that would be more than he could bear. Not necessarily suicidal, but he would certainly not be as strong as he is now.
When I read it, I thought, well, as you know, when people see it, they'll see sort of familiar plot line, but it was a different twist on a sort of a familiar plot line, and I liked that.
She's concerned about her dad. She loves her dad, and she's died, and she knows that her dad is in pain, and already with her mom being gone. So she stays to help him get through his pain, and then once he's ready to accept the fact that she's dead, she'll leave, but until then, she'll be by him.
I guess, there's a little twist at the end where some other people can see her, but I'll let you watch the movie and see that. That's basically Crazy Joe, and then, some experiences, and it's, I think it has a pretty solid message.
Crazy Joe has quite a long and convoluted history to get to the big screen. I actually wrote the first draft way back in 2001. I ended up doing a couple other projects in the interim, and then around 2006, here comes Crazy Joe on my plate again, and I really wanted to do it. So I started to talk to some of the people that were involved in my feature-length film, The Ethereal Plane, and I started tapping them to help me produce, and even thought about having Ron Rogel, the actor from that movie, try out for Joe.
This is getting weirder by the minute.
Long story short, while we were knee-deep in pre-production, the producers kind of pulled the plug on the project and just thought it wasn't the right time. They told me it wasn't the right time, the equipment wasn't ready, the people aren't ready, and I kind of just wanted to rush into it, I guess, for some reason. I just really wanted to get in there and do it, and I don't think I was all that prepared. So in hindsight, I agree with their decision to pull the plug. The film just wasn't ready, the equipment wasn't ready. I don't think I was ready as a filmmaker to tell that kind of emotional story. I've done quite a bit of horror and action and some sci-fi. Yeah, they were right. It wasn't the right time, and I'm glad I waited till I found these wonderful actors that I found here in San Diego, and Chris, the DP, and it was certainly well worth the wait.
I met the director, Clark. We met online, and she sent him my reel. He liked it, and we decided to meet. And we met up and talked about the project, and briefly talked about ourselves, and kind of went basically from there. And then we had a couple other meetings talking about the project before production began.
Well, I went through an awful lot of DPs to get to Chris Patterson. Originally, I was going to do the project with my own existing equipment. None of it is really that great anymore. It's pretty outdated. It's not high def. And I did not want to use the same equipment I'd been using in the past for my other films. So I ended up adding Craigslist, and found a couple of people. Met a few other people through some referrals in San Diego and had some meetings, but unfortunately all the ones I had met couldn't commit to the time, and I had actually kind of given up at one point. I just didn't think it was going to happen with a guy with finding anyone with professional equipment and the skills. So finally, Chris and I met up, and
we decided the best way to shoot it would be able, for a low budget project like this. Usually they get shot, weekends here, maybe a day here, day here. I really didn't want to go that route, and I prefer just to shoot everything, take like 5 days off, work, whatever, and just go and shoot this project.
Chris and I decided to shoot the whole film in about a week's time. Ended up taking about 10 days altogether, but I agreed that was a better way to do it than the weekend thing.
When we shot for I think 9 days, we did I believe 3 days, took 2 days off, shot another 2 days, then another 2 days here, then a day there, and then one last day.
Chris is just a super talent. He's got a great eye. This kid is 29 years old. He's a genius at what he does, and just an absolute pleasure to work with.
My style of lighting I've developed over the last 10 years for working for different gaffers and DPs, and you kind of see what you like, and sometimes things just come together and you get something pretty beautiful. Sometimes not so much. It's just, that's just the way of the beast. And but this we had some very pretty, I'm pretty happy with a lot of how the scenes look and all that.
So I conveyed to Chris the kind of style and look for the film I was really going for. I wanted to keep it kind of a very steady, kind of old school, smooth tripod look to it. I really loved the shallow depth of field he was giving me for a lot of shots. And just kind of keep it a lot of moving camera, a lot of slowly, the camera crawling sideways or pushing in. I love those kind of dramatic shots. All throughout the movie has a lot of movement to it. I didn't want to go with any handheld type stuff. I wasn't really looking for that type of trendy look. I wanted to keep it steady and I guess perhaps a little old school.
This movie, I was trying to do a pretty natural look. I didn't want it to look overlit, but I didn't want it to be underlit, because I think lighting would really show, work that people, the crew has put into the movie. You start showing some nice lighting, and then if you shoot the scenes out well and the acting's good and all the elements come together, you make something really nice. So we tried, we lit almost every scene. Some stuff just looked great natural. That we shot a scene, the very end of the movie, that was all natural, but we were in between, we were in an alley, and the sun was hitting one white wall, and then the other wall was another white wall that was shade. So basically, we kept the actors, for the most part, out of the direct sunlight, and they were just being filled in from the bounce of the sun bouncing off the other white wall back to them, which looked really nice. And it just happened to be like a, very sidey key, so we didn't have to do much, and I just thought it looked good, and we just rolled with it. And for time restraints, time was an issue that day, and we were able to just kind of fly through it.
Well, Clark had seen me in the independent film The Branch Report, one of my previous projects.
James was really a villain and a very unlikable person in that movie, and a couple of people said, what in the world did you see in him there to think he'd be a good Joe?
And I believe we met at a screening of that, if I remember correctly, or we were introduced by the people working on that. And so he told me he had me in mind for this.
I don't know, I saw something, I really thought it'd be good. Perfect Joe. I saw in him that he could play anything he wanted to play in any different way he wanted. And I really thought it'd be a good Joe, and he was. He really added a dimension that wasn't really in the script, which is awesome. He really made the character very endearing, very likable. Much more so than I ever envisioned it to be.
And when I say sure did, I'll say something like, yeah, why don't you take it? We'll go on, I guess the whole point is to talk about the memories I had in the mall.
Actually, Clark saw me from The Little Matchmakers, which is a previous movie I was in.
My friend Carla, who was the kid wrangler in the school scene, she knew of a film that was shot in San Diego called The Little Matchmakers. And she suggested I contact her and her mom as a possible Lizzie. So I saw the trailer. I thought Lizzie was perfect. She had a great look.
I
I'm sorry. Is it okay to videotape you?
What were you videotaping me for?
I make movies.
We make them fall in love.
And then we'll all live happily ever after as one big Mexican-American Jewish-English family.
Let's do it.
Let's do it!
And he was making another movie and he wanted a girl that age. And I guess he saw me and he had me come in for an audition. And I guess he liked what he saw because here I am.
Hannah ended up being far beyond anything I dreamed. And I mean, it was one thing to see her on the audition tapes, but it was a whole different thing when we got around to actually being on the set and filming. And absolute pleasure to work with.
But I jotted down. Are you familiar with the part where you were saying with the China and the moon joke and all that?
Yeah, I am.
And then he says, really? And you're like, whatever.
Sure did.
So I wrote an ad-lib scene between that and then when he says time for bed.
And did you like what you were reading?
I did. The last movie I was in was actually a really family-friendly movie. I'm not saying this one isn't, but it was all, I don't know, it's totally different from what I did in the past.
The very first day of shooting, Hannah gave me this wonderful moment where she almost tears up and kind of, lips kind of quiver or whatever, and a very emotional moment. So, that wasn't something that I had even asked for. It wasn't in the script. In fact, I had written that little dialogue section the day that we shot of that part. But when I saw that, I absolutely knew right then and there that she was the perfect actress for the part, and very good, very talented. Just made that scene. I think it might be my favorite scene in the whole movie.
Clark contacted me. I think I'm on a website that I registered for theater work. It's funny because, I haven't paid don't tell anybody, but I haven't paid my membership on that website in like 3 years. But I think that's where he got me from, oddly enough.
It took a long time to find the perfect Rumsfeld. I looked at a lot of people. A lot of people couldn't do it or weren't available. And I kept looking and finally came across this guy, Brian Buckley Smith. He came over to my house for an audition, and he read for the part. And I just loved his look, his style, his sort of smart aleck attitude. It was just perfect for the part. So I kind of knew right then and there that he was the one to play my Rumsfeld.
I don't like the character Rumsfeld, but I like what he was doing with the character. So I'm not I don't necessarily have to like a character I'm playing, but I'm attracted more to the conflict that the character is in, or the arc of the character. And, Rumsfeld's arc is, it's kind of interesting.
Shut up. Look who's here.
Oh, it's Joe.
But I also like the conflict. So, yeah, I was attracted to, the story and the character, playing the character.
Mark, where's the exit that we're going to? Your lens cap.
Oh, it's over.
Maybe you need to go.
And then I'll just go like this.
Yeah,
Why don't you queers go play with your crazy bunny Joe? I don't want to get out of my face.
Well, he's not necessarily crazy. He's perceived as crazy by some people, some rather antagonistic people, but I don't think he's any crazier than you or I. He's he's been through something very horrific, and he's coming to terms with it, and he's just living life day by day, getting through it as best he can.
I do like the character. She's a little younger than I am, so I had to change some of the things about myself, but it's okay.
What are the differences between being your actual age, which is 14, instead of being 11, which is the age of this character, right?
Right, yeah. I think I talk like a teenager. I act like a teenager. I look like a teenager. I had to alter kind of how I talk, what I look like. But I was 11 once. I can do it again, right?
Right.
Well, I was really impressed with and touched by the bond between Joe and Lizzie. It's really strong, and I think that this looks like something that would be worth exploring. He's very protective of her, and she's equally protective of him, or if not more so. Okay, this is interesting. This is a good reference point, a good starting point for getting getting into the character.
I love it when actors can ad lib and just kind of take a scene, make it their own, and kind of keep going with it after the scene is officially done. But at one point I had asked James Steinberg if he could just sort of ramble on for a little bit at the end of the scene, and that way I could use the audio or whatever to dissolve out into the next scene at the bar. So he did this really kind of funny and really cool ad lib about elephant ears.
We were just there, 2 weeks ago. We were looking at the elephants, and I said, I said something about, look at the African elephants, and she said, no, Dad, those are Indian elephants. Apparently she knew the difference. I said, well, honey, how do you know? She said, Indian elephants have smaller ears. God, she's so smart.
I can identify, he's not like totally two-dimensional. There are parts of him that I can identify with, sort of that being afraid of things you don't understand, which I think is a very basic human element, and so that's something like personally I try not to, as in my own life, I try not to get sucked into that. But at the same time, it makes it kind of interesting to explore what is that, because it's a very human thing, right? It's a very basic human nature thing to have this fear of things you don't understand. Or the other thing is, a lot of times people say that the things that piss you off and the most about people are the things that you see in yourself. So how is that, what does Rumsfeld see in this character that makes him feel so badly about himself? And so these are things that I don't necessarily feel in my life, but there have been times in my life where I felt that way in certain situations. And so it's kind of cool to, dive into that and see what it feels like and what the experience is, to play with that.
Dad? What dad? I don't know, you freaking dad!
That's good.
And I'm that kid. I know what you're up to. I know things you not want me to know. I want you to leave my dad alone, understood?
Perfect. Do it just like that.
You're a little freak, that's what you are. Is that what I said? Kid, you're a freak, that's what you are. Jen, how do you feel up to this?
Well, all the scenes with Joe and Lizzie I really like, because Hannah is a very professional young actress, and delight to work with, but still, and just seeing that bond between father and daughter, you see it there, even though what you see in the movie, obviously the process is a lot more choppy, putting the thing together, but still, I mean, I think it was present in all the scenes and all the work we did.
Joe's wife crowed 3 years ago, and his kid is dead too. And then I'm walking away from her, and I get about this far.
I was really excited to yell at Rumsfeld because I am a very confrontational person, and it just made me really excited to be able to yell at somebody.
Who's older than you, right?
Yeah. And I got to threaten him. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, well, I shouldn't say unfortunately, because I don't feel like it's that bad a deal, but I get to play the bad guy and the evil guy, pretty frequently.
The one that starts the trouble, right?
Yeah, so I've sort of been typecast that way, which is all right, because at least I get cast.
And I've never done anything like that before, and it was really exciting for me to be able to tell him off, especially since he's, an adult, and having me have an effect on him, the effect to, scare him like that. It's really fun.
My favorite scene in this is probably the slowest scene in the movie. It's the scene where Joe and Lizzie are sitting on a park bench, and there's some dialogue about how Joe's pretty happy, doesn't want to meet or move on, and he's just very happy with life and that he has Lizzie. What I like about it is we had a little bit of time, and we just had an 8-foot little Dana dolly, which is basically a dolly but more like a slider, because the operator slides back and forth with the camera, and we were just doing little slides across, and We used one shiny board to light it. There's some trees overhead giving us a nice soft ambient, killing the hard sunlight from coming in and polluting it too much. So it just looked good, and I just like it. It's probably my favorite scene. There's some other parts I like too, but I just think that one's pretty, and I like it.
I have been in shoots that were not this well organized,
Oh.
so things took longer than they should, which made things maybe a little more uncomfortable than they could have been. But yeah, but this was an exception. Everyone seemed to be on schedule pretty well and on the ball.
I think overall it was very well. Everybody did a really good job. This girl Marcy came out and operated the boom for us a couple days and helped me on the grip and electric side. She was extremely helpful. And Nick Kirkwood, he came out, and Tim Hobel, and my friend Jason Solonin came out a couple days, and there was a producer on board. Her name is Kat. I only met her once, but she was able to lock down our bar location, which was nice. But everybody worked really hard, and we were fed, and we didn't do any OT, and it was a pretty tight schedule. Everybody kind of had things. Either I'd planned to be there all day, and then everybody else had to leave it by 2. So a lot of this movie was very kind of rushed. There wasn't much time to, be as creative. It was kind of like get the coverage because we need to be done by this amount of time. And one of the days we were shooting, we were doing the green screen. That was kind of like my day. I had 2 hours. We just rushed through it. But that's filmmaking. Though sometimes you just got to move, and that's part of it.
Is it grueling, or is this a lot more work than I thought, or you thought it would be?
Well, no. It's a movie. I was expecting a bunch of work from it, but it's grueling, mostly because it's hot.
Yeah.
But I've always been good at memorizing things, so it wasn't that hard for me to...
Ooh, there goes a flash.
It wasn't that hard for me to memorize the script, but...
Oh.
It's about time to do that. Time to get busy.
What, me?
Yeah,
Oh, are you ready?
pretty much.
Oh. Action.
Oh. There's the psycho son of a bitch now.
Mister?
Yeah, the heat was on there for a while, but that's okay. It's good to be a little uncomfortable sometimes. You don't want to be too pampered. The whole experience of working on this film was very enjoyable. I mean, the cast was great, the crew was great. It's low budget, so very sparse crew. Everybody doing a little bit here and there, and which I kind of like. I like where I can help out and not feel like oh, you're just a talent. Don't touch that. Stay away. Go away and come back when we need you. I like, I sort of liked the camaraderie that we have when we're working with a small crew like that, and everybody was just great. I mean, just to say that it was low budget doesn't mean that the people that were working on it weren't top rate, because we actually did have some really talented people working on it who, I was like, wow, this guy's working for, next to nothing. That's pretty amazing. So that aspect of it was pretty cool too. That people were interested in the project enough to
Do it anyway.
yeah, not have to get union rates or whatever.
I'm Lizzie. I'm Joe's daughter. And I'm that.
Okay, that's it. I was really kind of blown away and very touched in a way. People in this town just really came out of the woodwork to help. I think we put together some amazing people with just great attitudes and great work ethic. Just giving of their time and putting in all the effort. There was a lot of hot days and long days, and people just really wonderful. I can't thank people enough. Our co-producer, Catherine Foster, was the one that secured the Moose Lodge, the bar that we shot at, which was a fantastic find and a great thing. Her neighbors were also instrumental in getting us this location, but not only was the Moose Lodge had a great look to it, and it was just really pretty perfect for the scenes, But the people were so great and so gracious, let us come in there early in the morning, get up on Sunday morning to meet us there, let us in, and let us film all day, most of the day. But the Moose Lodge was just an enormous blessing to finally get. Digitally erase these names. And the two I brought, they were made with the girls, are great, but we're going to use these real ones because they're real. And they happen to have one small one and one big one. That's pretty meant to be, I think. And there's dog poop we got to watch out for. Had a big old honking bowl of grape nuts and I'm still hungry. And then there was the Oceanside Cemetery. What a great find that was. My father and stepmother used to come out to Oceanside to visit. They would have their trailer, and they would stay at this trailer park. And right next door to this trailer park was this old cemetery that looked like it hadn't been touched in years. We would go over there and walk the dogs and kind of hang out and look around. And I started thinking at the time, this is a potential decent place for our cemetery scene. I didn't think it was great, but I thought I could at least maybe use it. Well, it turned out to be that every other cemetery in San Diego that I contacted really just wanted either a lot of money or a lot of insurance, and just weren't all that enthused about it. And then I called up the people that ran this cemetery in Oceanside, and they were just super nice. They were even thankful that I even bothered to ask, because they said people have come in there without asking and shot some stuff. She said, by all means, you can do it, and if the cops come to shut you down or something, just give them my name and number, and we'll take care of it. So they were great. And even though I wasn't crazy about it at first, when I saw these two tombstones with the big huge tree there, and the mom and the daughter, it's tombstones, it just suddenly was like, this is the absolute most perfect spot I could possibly have found without making our own fake tombstones. So it ended up being a fantastic scene. I'm so grateful that we just were able to get this place. And it was a really neat cemetery. Just old Civil War people are in there, and just really old stuff. In fact, it may not even be that realistic that Lizzie and her mom have these tombstones, because they're clearly pretty darn old looking. We did this really wonderful crane shot. Originally, I was just going to have the camera start low and go up high into the sky and then look down at the two tombstones. And those shots worked out okay, but it was actually Chris who had the idea to start up high, come down the trunk, and then end up on the two tombstones. And that ended up being the best way to do it. It was when I first saw the shot in dailies, I just had goosebumps. Another fantastic location we got was the home of Eric Larson, who was a friend of Tim Carr, who plays Uncle Tim the bartender. And Eric was just terrific to let us come in there, take over his house for an entire day. It was wonderful to let us do that, and the house has a really, really good look. When it came time to finish editing and start thinking about the music, I had approached my composer from the last two projects I did, Troy Sterling Nyes, and unfortunately he was too busy, but he suggested I use this guy. I look up this guy named Reber, who ended up being a terrific composer, and really wonderful job he did. He took direction so well. I gave him all the ideas I was thinking of for the type of music in it, and he just ran with it, and I think the score is one of the best ever.
Well, everyone was really professional. We got a lot done in a relatively short amount of time. And all our shooting days were really productive.
And hot, right?
Some of them were, yeah. I got cooked a few days.
I guess the biggest challenge on this movie was just trying to bring the skills that I've acquired over the years that I've been working in the business to this set. And I have very high expectations of everything I do. And just trying to keep the look and quality up there as much as possible, because I believe in doing good work, and if you're not going to give it all you got, then why even do it? It's not worth doing something half-ass. And I feel like we did the best we could. I feel like I did the best I definitely could for the tools and crew we had and time and everything else. It was good. We gave it our all. There's definitely, I look back and there's some things I wish I would have done slightly different or did something a little different here, but I'm very happy with the project overall. I think Crazy Joe's a nice little piece, and I'm proud to have been a part of it.
What the hell do you want?
Crazy Joe took about 12 years to finally get made from the day I first wrote it, and I'm pretty blown away by the people in this town that came together and helped me out, and I'm so appreciative of all the great talent and hard work. And just couldn't have come out better. I'm really thrilled with the piece and so glad that we finally got to make it.